Hello,
Hello.
Commissioner Jordan Johnson.
Hello, Constance.
How are you today?
I'm well. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine, doing
Good,
fine. Fine.
good.
Thank you so much for agreeing to engage in this very important conversation about professional wellness. And I just want to let viewers know that you are a county commissioner in Augusta, Georgia, and you were the youngest person elected to fill that position, to sit in that seat. You were elected when you were 25 years old and assumed the position at 26.
Yeah, yeah.
2020?
20, yeah, that was 2020. It's 4 years ago, going on 4 years ago. It's amazing how
Wow.
fast time moves on, but it's 2020. Yes.
Yes. Well, tell us a little bit more about what that experience was like for you.
Oh my gosh. It's sort of a blur because again, it was going on 4 years ago. And
Hmm.
at 25 and now moving into my 30s, it's like, where did the time go? But the experience was amazing. I don't think that I could have asked for a better experience when it came down to running for office. We always talk about making change in the community and being the change that we want to see. And I just felt like it was my time to step up and start practicing what I preached. Uh, I don't know what persuaded me to do it. People always say, why did you want to run for office? Why did you decide to be, on the Augusta Commission? And it
Hmm.
was just simply that, it wasn't that I woke up one day and had this big epiphany, that I think it's time to do this. No, I saw the conditions of the community that I grew up in, and I realized that they were the same. The conditions had not changed in 20 years plus from when I was a child, when my mom was a child. And I wanted to do something about that. And I know that elected officials had tried before,
Hmm.
but I just wanted to take a swing at it. And so I decided to run, and the experience was amazing. Uh, However, comma, it was during the pandemic. And so right around February and March of 2020, we had to shut everything down and transition our campaign to virtual. And it made it hard to campaign because no one was thinking about the next elected official. We were all thinking about how to make sure to be there for each other during that pandemic, how to make sure that families were taken care of, how to make sure that our families were taken care of on a personal note. But I think that having that opportunity just to hear people's concerns, speak to their fears, and really just try to reassure folks that better days were ahead is what helped me get through that trail. I started in maybe July of 2019, and the election was August of 2020. So it was a whole year, and I felt every second of it. But it was a great experience, and I'm grateful that I was able to assume the position.
Yeah, that's a unique experience to have because no one living had, well, I don't think so. At least I didn't hear about it, but no one living had or was discussing what it was like to campaign during a pandemic.
It was rough. It was probably the hardest thing I've done to date because, again, as a candidate, in January of 2020, New Year's Eve, we're happy about the new year. We're speaking all these positive affirmations into the year. And then March, I'm on the way back from Texas from burying my granddad, and Texas is shutting down. New York had shut down. California was shutting down. And I was convinced that we weren't going to change anything campaign wise. But just like that, Constance, my focus went from how to get elected to how to live, how to survive, how to make it on the other side of this thing. I thought about myself, my grandparents, my mom, and not only just my family, but people that were affected as well, that were potentially be impacted. And I lost a lot of people, lost friends, lost neighbors.
Yeah.
But in a moment, the campaign didn't even matter. It was the only thing that mattered to us at that time was making sure that we had all the information that we needed to help make sure that we made it on the other side. And so we made a hard pivot. We passed out 1,000 masks in the community, and everything was virtual. We made sure that folks had access to resources that they need. And then on the other side of the pandemic, when the vaccination became available to everyone, we vaccinated about maybe 1,000 to 2,000 people in the district. So it was a difficult process, but I think at the end of the day, the message got across that people made a decision and we went to work day one. But it was an interesting process for sure.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
what has it been like for you to be the youngest elected county commissioner and Augusta.
Well, I think no other place, right, is that possible than in our country. I will say, regardless of what we think about our country or the current state of the country, we have to be honest that in no other country can someone from public housing, Dogwood Terrace, having a mom who's living in a family, a divorced family, and just going through all these different types of things, had the opportunity to run for the county commission in Augusta, Richmond County at 25 years old. I think that experience was something that I would never take for granted. But what it has been like for me, it has been a journey for sure. Ageism has been something that I have constantly had to deal with. Always having to feel as though you're fighting for your spot at the table, even though you raised $30,000. That was the most expensive political campaign for the Augusta Commission in history.
Wow.
And we topped that up maybe 30 grand in campaign, raising campaign dollars. Like, even though we fought hard and I had been working for years, it still felt as though this notion that young people just didn't really know what they were doing, or that there wasn't a real carved out space for young people in the political process. It had always hung over. Excuse me. And so my whole mentality going in was to not focus on that, not to focus on that, but to focus on the work that needed to be done. Because while I was the youngest, and I'm still the youngest, I don't intend to be the youngest. I want to make sure that someone else comes behind, maybe a 21-year-old, maybe an 18-year-old. Let's make sure that folks have a path to chart. So I do feel like, in a regard, I have a responsibility in making sure that that door remains open. But it has been such an interesting journey. I don't think about much else other than the commission. And that's that old political line, right? It's the first thing I think about when I wake up, the last thing I think about at night. But it's true. I get it now. I get it now. It's all I think about. And I don't know if that's a good thing or not, but I've enjoyed these last 3.5 years because I've had the opportunity to talk to people and really get to know folks on a personal basis, not just as their commissioner, but just somebody who really wants to know what the community is dealing with, so that we can take the government and use it in a way to help people get from one way of life to another. And I think that's probably been the best part of the whole job. The politics is going to always be the politics. But when you're able to sit and talk to someone and hear their frustrations, hear their stories, and then be able to help them, that's an amazing feeling. And then watch them be able to grow into a new phase in their own personal lives. It means that the process works. And that's what's keeping me around.
That's great. That's great to hear you say that, and talking about all those things, ageism. And even though you were so successful with the amount of money you were able to raise, still the doubt regarding age and the weight. I don't know. Well, you didn't say weight, but the focus of this,
it's definitely a weight.
The weight that comes along with it. And my father, who's passed away, he was the first and sadly the only Black county commissioner to this date in my home town, my home county, Effingham County, and also the longest serving county commissioner. And it wasn't, when you talk about like how the impact that seeing individuals change and listening to their stories and what that impact is on you as a commissioner. I think about when we were packing my father's things and finding letters from individuals who wrote him, telling him how thankful they were of what he did in their lives as a county commissioner, being able to help them in different situations. And so hearing you talk about that, witnessing that transformation for people, it's real. It's not just political talk. It is a reality.
Yes, it is. And I have a binder that's delivered to me every Friday with the commission agenda, all of our mail and everything. And I have a box in my room. It's about maybe that big. And that's where I keep all my letters. I have letters from people requesting services, letters from folks coming out of the DUI and accountability court program. So many people reach out because they understand that in order to get something done, you have to go to your representative. But their voice is directly connected to what we do or don't do. And I think that's something that elected officials have to tap into more, is that we're representing 25,000 people in this district. And my job is to allow my constituents to speak through me. I listen to them and take their concerns back to Green Street. But that box is real. Those letters are real. And you can even sometimes feel the frustration and feel the pain. You can feel the struggle in those letters, mostly from people who are living in poverty, mostly from people who have gone through something and they need help. I've gotten letters from folks in prison telling me their stories about why they're in jail, you know, begging to get out and these types of things. I've actually taken an opportunity to go meet with court officials to see how to help folks that send me letters like that. But I only mentioned that and only went deeper into it was because that's what I mean when I say that it's the first thing that I think about when I wake up and the last thing that I think about when I lay down, because there's always more work to be done. I can go on, Constance, about families who've lost loved ones, who's lost 13-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 8-year-olds, and how I've sat with them and just allowed my shoulder to be a Kleenex. It's a tough role. It is a tough role. But at the end of the day, when you look at it from a larger perspective, you realize that if you offer yourself to that service and you allow people to, you allow that trust to be built, man, what we can do is so exponential. The change that we can make in our communities is so exponential. But you have to offer yourself to that and you have to be sincere in what you're doing. And sometimes if that's your goal and if that's your passion, it will consume you. And I'm a living witness. It has consumed every portion of my life. But I have found ways to center myself around a few things to keep that mental health and that holistic wellness in check, because that's super important.
And that is very important that you're talking about how to maintain some balance. I remember there was something going on at school. It may have been like a lunch day where your parents come. And I remember my dad wasn't able to come. And one of my classmates told me, he's like, your dad is out helping the community. And so
We don't care about that.
it does, it can bleed into your personal life. Because you are focused on the needs of the community. So what have you done to try to have that balance, make sure that you're well, and what are some indicators that you've noticed to let you know that you don't have that balance and you're not practicing overall wellness?
Oh, wow. How much time do you have? Well, let me go back if you don't mind. My family on the Johnson side, the men have a history of mental illness. Okay. And it goes all the way back. I mean, how can we not have a history of mental illness, given what we went through with slavery, given what we went through with Jim Crow, given what we went through, the post-Jim Crow era, that's going to be there, right? But my great-grandfather was an amazing man. I never met him. He died 3 years before I was born, but the stories that I've heard, and not only just from my family, but even when we go back home to Anniston, Alabama, I hear stories about how my grandfather served the community, how he was always standing in the gap for folks, going to court with people, talking to city officials to make sure that folks had a second chance, regardless of what they did. That was who he was. He was a house of prayer preacher. He was a father to many, many kids, many, many kids. He's Abraham, many kids. I don't know how many kids he had, but he had a lot of kids. But he took care of his kids. He was a great father, but he had issues. He had issues mentally that showed up from time to time. And you saw those issues in his children. You saw those issues in some of his sons. And my family never talked about it. It was one of those things to where you go in the room and you just pray, lay down and take a nap, wake up and keep going. That's fine for a time, but you have to address these issues. And I never really saw the need for counseling or saw the need to seek mental health help until I was probably about maybe 23 or 24, and life just started lifing. You know what I mean? It's just thing after thing. We had a house fire. I got into a terrible car accident that caused terrible anxiety. I struggle with anxiety. The worst thing you can do to me is text me and say, we need to talk ASAP. I'm going to flip. Like, anxiety is terrible. But what I've done since realizing that, hey, This isn't something that I can just go pray about. This isn't something that I can just go work off or go run off. This is something that I need to go sit and talk with someone about, because I'm dealing with issues that I didn't ask for. It's something that just kind of in my mind, and I'm not a professional clinician, so I'm not a healthcare provider. So this is just basically opinion. But I thought this was something that I inherited. And
Mhm.
so the first thing I did was I went and sought help. I went and got a therapist, and she was amazing. I have cried on her Zoom screen many times. I tried not to go into her office because I just didn't want to do all of that. But I was doing Zoom every Friday with her, and she helped me with so many issues that I was dealing with. She helped me see the flaw that I had in myself, because every time something happens, we have a tendency to blame other people,
Mhm.
make folks the victim in our stories. But no, we have to take responsibility, and she helped me do that as well. And this is, again, 23, 24, 25 years old, such a critical point in my matriculation. And so outside of just going to counseling and seeking a good counselor to just go see every Friday, I've started eating healthier. It is not something that has been easy or fun, but
Mhm.
I've started eating healthier. I've gotten myself a nice trainer. He's working me like we're training for a competition or something. Uh, and I do a lot of running, I do a lot of walking, and a lot of reading. And of course, you can't discount the role that spirituality takes in this as well. Getting into a good study based off whatever your faith is. My Christian faith allows me to be able to go to the Word whenever I feel like I'm feeling overwhelmed. And then lastly is journaling. I do a lot of journaling. If I start finding myself veering off into those intrusive thoughts, those moments to where I feel like I need a little help, I'll just start journaling. I'll journal what I feel, and keep moving from there. But it has been a process, and I've gotten so comfortable over the years talking about it candidly, because it's something that we all deal with, especially as Black men. We deal with mental health, and sometimes we don't really understand how to go about talking about it. But I found peace in saying, yes, I am not different. I need help just like everyone else. And some of those efforts that I've made in my personal life, I've tried to make change in the government as well. So it's been a journey, but it's been a good journey.
You hit on so many important things.
Don't let me ramble, please. I feel like I'm rambling to you.
No, you're not. You're not.
Okay,
You
okay.
hit on so many important things, and one of them being the trauma of racism.
Yes.
And as you said, just with as a people, when with the trauma of slavery, and how that truly lives in the DNA, and how that does come down the line,
Oh, yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
how it shows up in different ways, and you being able to recognize that and not be afraid to go seek help, because for so many people it can be excused or minimized or projecting it onto someone else. But the work that you've done, and how that also it's the work regarding your well-being mentally and emotionally, but also physically, with
Right.
having a trainer, with journaling.
Yeah.
That's that's great. That's great. And especially as a Black man, talking about it, sharing about it, that will be so impactful for so many people.
Right. I have this principle that I try to live my life on, and it's Lord, I want to be ready. Right.
Mm,
It's a song that a group called Blessed out of South Carolina sang, and I was probably 15 or 16 when they first started singing the song, and I fell in love with the song. The song's about being ready when your time comes and you go into your heavenly home. But I take that principle and I apply it to every day, because who knows what life is going to bring, right? I want to be ready when it's my time to be a father. I want to be a good father. I want to be ready when it's my time to lead. I want to be a good leader. I want to be ready when it's time for me to just get out of the bed and walk to the restroom and brush my teeth and get ready for the day. I can't be ready if my mind is clouded with the worries of the day or intrusive thoughts. One thing my therapist taught me to ask myself was, who told you that? When I start having little thoughts, who told you that? Where's the confirmation, right? So I can't get up and move along if I'm not healthy physically. And so this whole notion of, Lord, I just want to be ready, is something that I try to live my life on. Like, how can I make sure that I'm the best version of myself and be available to answer the call whenever that call it taps my shoulder, whether that's fatherhood, something professional, whatever the case. Lord, I want to be ready. And I think that's been something that has helped me tremendously because, if you're not focused on something, uh, what are you working towards? I think for the biggest thing for me is being well mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, and let God take care of the rest of the things because I can't touch it. But this whole idea that the trauma of slavery, the trauma of Jim Crow has just walked away. It has not, especially being in a leadership role in a southern city,
Yes,
a city that banned Ray Charles from playing here because he didn't want to play in a segregated city. They banned Ray Charles. They don't ban Ray Charles. This city
exactly.
has such a cloud, and we can go over that in another day. But those types of stigmas still remain. And again, I just want to make sure that I'm ready whenever it's time for me to answer whatever call that God has for me. And that's the basis of that.
That's important, being proactive. I've had
Yeah.
clients come to receive counseling and address issues, as you said, before becoming a father, before
Right.
becoming a mother, because they want to make sure they're in the best mental state
Yes.
and that they're addressing some just various, as you said, what your therapist asked you, who told you that?
Who told you that?
Those things so that you don't pass that down
Yeah.
to children, to a partner, or to those that you're serving. How do
Right.
you feel that you practicing overall wellness helps you as a county commissioner and as you're the chair of the Democratic Party um,
Yes.
in Richmond County? How do you feel that being well helps you in those positions?
Well, it helps in a lot of ways. I think the number one way is uh, just helping me deal with people better. You know, there's not a day that goes by where I don't get a negative phone call. I get negative calls and really rude emails, mean tweets, negative Facebook posts. you know, there's more negativity in this road that I encountered than positivity, and that's the nature of the beast. That's not something that is a woe is me because I'm certainly not an anomaly. We all deal with that issue, um, and that's just it comes along with public opinion. But can you imagine going through a mental health crisis in the moment, and then a constituent calls and they touch that button, they touch that nerve, and you go off on them, right? That's not good. That's not good at all. And so one thing that I've worked on is making sure that the first thing I do in the morning is work on something that helps me get to a good place, a good mental space. And let me back up and just explain this. When we talk about these kind of things, we're not talking about sitting in a corner shaking back and forth. That's a terrible statement. We're talking, simple things like just not feeling like doing anything in the morning, just not want to get out of the bed, just not feeling it. That's the same thing, right? That's depression that can be caused by anxiety, that can be caused by anything. But I think that making sure that I've been focusing on my mental health, my mental wellness, it has helped in a lot of regards. Mostly, like I said, just making sure that I'm able to answer the call and talk to people and be able to interact with them because the worst thing that you can do is not give your full self when you're doing this job. And you can't give your full self if you're not in a place to give your full self. And there'll be days when I slip. There'll be days when I, don't answer the phone, or there may even be days when I have not returned calls the way that I could. But inherently, it's because it was just a rough day. It's just a rough day. But
Yeah.
being well mentally uh, has really helped me stay consistent in answering the needs of my constituents because there are great needs. There are great needs, and the needs are increasing. And I just want to make sure that I'm there to be able to help out. But it has helped out tremendously in that regard because there are some days when my phone rings and somebody on the other line and they're going off. And I'm just praying, Lord, let this call end quickly. Give me the
Yes.
words to say because, but anyhow, it helps me be able to interact with people on a positive note.
And I'm glad that you point that out because when you see someone in public office, a lot of times individuals forget that they are human.
Yeah.
They have lives. They are dealing with so many things. And it's okay, I expect you to always be like this, to be able to take everything. Should be able to call and use certain language and do X, Y, and Z, and you should just take it.
I have received, I thought about starting a series on my TikTok, uh, angry constituent calls, but I was advised against doing that. But I had a young lady call me one day, and it bothered me so badly. Um, there's a gas station over in the Olive Road area behind Josie High School, and this
Okay.
gas station is notorious for solicitation, drug, uh, peddling, those types of things. Lots of drug activity going on. There was a couple shootouts there, and I've been working extremely hard to make sure that this area is cleaned up. And my answer is never, it will never be to just lock people up and throw away the key. I think that's the very last resort. And I have been working on it for a while, so much so to where I've actually been to the store. I've been in to talk to the owners, been speaking to the guys standing outside of the store. Uh, um, and someone called me one day and she was very, very rude. Called me everything except the child of God. And when I voted for you, and now you're not doing what you said you're going to do. And she called me everything out of my name.
Mhm.
But it was in that moment when I realized, you know what? She's frustrated. She's frustrated. She's not angry with me. She doesn't hate me. She's not mad at me. She's frustrated because of the quality of her community. She's frustrated because every day she goes home, she has to pass this. I don't think that if I had not sat down with my counselor all over these years, right, that I wouldn't be able to pause and have the capacity to see that frustration and to understand that's not towards you. That's not towards anything you've done. Don't take offense to that. She's frustrated. Meet her where she is and just try to help console her fears or her concerns. I think that is the power of learning yourself, getting out of yourself, and really learning how to just navigate the day by day. It has, like I said, it's not easy. It has been a journey. I am human. When I get tagged on Facebook in negative posts, I want to go back and forth. I want to get Twitter fingers, but I tend not to because, people are frustrated, and who else to vent your frustration to than the person that you voted to represent you? I can take it. But if I'm not well mentally, if I'm having a bad day, if I'm not focused, if I'm all over the place and depressed and dealing with anxiety, who knows how I will respond.
Mhm.
Um, and again, it's not just me. This is something that everyone deals with. But I'm glad that I was able to enroll in a good program because you need it. You definitely need it. A former mayor said the first thing he did after he got out of office was go get therapy. So I'm
Oh,
trying to beat him to the punch and do it while I'm there. So when I get out of office, I don't have to deal with it.
I'm glad that you just you recognize the importance of all of these different aspects of wellness, because the the reason why I even wanted to start these conversations was working on a campaign and knowing the experience of feeling overwhelmed, feeling drained, and thinking about what it felt like for the candidate and what it's like when you're actually elected, and all of the demands, and being able to manage all of those things while continuing to do something that you're very passionate about. And so you are ahead of the mark.
I appreciate you. I don't think that anything that I'm doing is special in this regard. I just think that uh, again, I just want to be available. This job is extremely overwhelming. It can be hard to manage, hard to keep up with, especially being that the commissioners, we don't have staff. You would think that a city the size of Augusta, with the type of government that we have, the commission, nothing starts or stops without the commission. You would think we would have at least one staff member to help take up phone calls, but we don't. So between my personal email, my city email, my personal phone, my city phone, and then our clerk's office, we have one clerk that 10 of us share. Calls are constantly coming in, and trying to keep up with those things can absolutely
Right.
um, make you go wild. And then if you miss the mark, if you don't keep up with something, or if you don't call someone back, or you miss something important, I know I internalize that. I take that very personal. I hold myself to a great standard.
Mhm.
Um, and so it can be overwhelming. It can be really overwhelming. But I think one of the things that has really helped me is being it, like I said, being with the clinician and learning different strategies to just be, give yourself slack. You're one person. You don't have a cape. You don't have wings. You're one person. Give yourself a little bit of leeway to just catch yourself up. And I think that has been helpful because I'm my biggest critic, and I know that I could be tough on myself. So.
So one thing I want to go back and
Sure.
that I should have asked in the beginning, explain the role of a county commission. What are the duties and responsibilities so that people have a realistic expectation of what they should be calling and concerned about?
So thank you for asking that question because it's my goal to reroute folks, to reroute how people view the Augusta Commission. Because for years, they just see the Augusta Commission as a group of people who argue and can't get along. That is so far from the reality of what the commission does. We are the legislative body of the legislative branch of this government. We're the legislative branch of the local government. Our job is to create ordinances, to create policies, to oversee the day-to-day operations of the city through the city administrator. We essentially serve as a legislative and the executive branch of our government in a regard. And so if there's an issue going on around poverty, right, it's our job to craft programs and fund those programs. If there's an issue with infrastructure, it's our job to direct department leaders to fix infrastructure issues, and then we fund those issues. So whatever issue that you have in the city of Augusta, whether that's the lack of entertainment, the lack of infrastructure improvements, the lack of resources to mental health services or homeless services, those types of things, the commissioners has a responsibility to solve those issues. The majority of the calls that we receive are mostly about right-of-way maintenance, vacant lot maintenance, blighted homes, those types of things. People want the quality of life for their communities to improve. And regardless of how many beautiful restaurants we have and nice amenities, there's a segment in this community that will never have access to Broad Street, will never have access to a nice sit-down restaurant, will never have an opportunity to go to Edgar's Grill or the Pinnacle Club, places that we go and we think is normal. They will never have access to that. But what they do have access to is, are rows of blighted houses in their communities, block after block after block filled with potholes, block after block filled with vacant lots. And that's the only thing that they have the ability to see is what's in their surrounding. And so my prayer for this city, and I really try my best to do this through my service, is yes, let's take care of the quality of life in neighborhoods to where people kind of feel locked in. But let's also break those barriers. Let's break that glass ceiling and expose people to the possibilities that this city has to offer. I have a hard time believing that we can't solve a 24% poverty rate in this city, that we can't expand access to capital for Black businesses in this city, that we can't build quality communities without gentrifying those communities. I don't buy into the narrative that those things can't happen. My job as a commissioner is to make sure that those things happen. That's my job. And I get passionate about it because, again, it's all I've allowed myself to think about. And we've gotten a lot done over the last 3.5, 4 years, and we're just getting started. And I say we because the commission, we're a team. It's not me, it's not one or another. We are a team. We're getting a lot done, whether it's in this district or other districts. So the role is just to take care of the city, to do the best that we possibly can for as many people that we can while we can.
Okay. So with that, as you were saying, what you were ending with this is what you think about all the time.
All the time.
What do you do for relaxation? I know you journal. I know you've gone to therapy, but what does Jordan do for fun?
Music. I love music. So I listen to music all day, every day. So when I'm working, when I'm at the gym, in the car, when I'm sitting in the house, I can have my TV on and music is still going to be in the background. I love music. I don't know where that love for music came from, but I know I love it. Who doesn't love music, right? But I love it. All genres. I was in Texas a few weeks ago and my cousins had me doing a little two-step to some country. So I got to learn that little dance. I got to figure out what song it was. So I was keeping up. but I love music. Music has always been my go-to. Even when I was dealing with depression after the loss of my stepdad, dealing with depression after the loss of what was going to be my first child. So many things that was going on at the time. Music was my space. It was my getaway. I would get out on my balcony and I brought a zero gravity chair. And I would lay back on my balcony. That zero gravity chair is from heaven. I'm telling you. You just lay back and it takes you with it. And I love it. It was $50. And I said, you know what? I'm going to get this chair. And I sat it on my balcony and I would take my big speaker outside and just listen to music. Tim's, I love Tim's. I love Mary J. Blige. I love Afrobeat and neo soul. Any old school R&B, the OJs, the Whispers, New Jack Swing with Bobby Brown and Belle Biv DeVoe, and even new stuff. Like I love Future's my favorite rapper. Like for right now, don't judge me, but he is. He got some Future need to be on someone's couch, right? But I like Future. I love Drake. I like just anybody that you can name. I'm gonna listen to it because music has been my outlook. It's been the way that I relax. And I was like, oh, how did I miss Michael Jackson? How did I miss Michael Jackson? I have a Thriller album sitting right on my piano here. How did I miss Michael Jackson?
Okay.
But outside of music, wrestling, I'm a big wrestling fan.
Oh yes.
So I'll watch wrestling all day if you let me. I'll talk your head off.
Yes. Yes. I experienced that on
Yes, you have.
Atlanta, Capitol. And yes, I'm not going to go into detail. But
I remember that now. I'm sorry. But those are the ways that I get around it. When I get home from the commission meetings or going out in the community, you can bet I'm going to do one or two things. I'm going to be listening to music. I'm going to watch Ric Flair, or, Hulk Hogan, Roman Reigns, someone. So that's pretty much what I do outside of the commission.
Okay. Well, continue doing that, because all the things you identified are so helpful. And it's important that you continue to have those interests outside of work, outside of your job, helping other people, the party. You've got to make sure that you stay in touch with Jordan and the things that you enjoy.
Yeah, most definitely. And like I said earlier, we're just beginning. We're just getting started. And I love the fact that, even from knowing you since New Leaders Council, the NLC days, we talked a lot about this around that round table, about how I was really just compelled to do more to get myself into a good space, right? And then to talk about it in a way to where I wasn't ashamed, or anyone in the room wasn't ashamed. And so I have to thank you, because you don't know it, but you have really helped me understand over the last few years the importance of getting involved with not getting involved, but taking a more intentional approach with my physical well-being. So I really do appreciate you for that. And I know you've helped so many other people too. So thank you. And it even just gives me this platform to run my mouth about it. It's also good therapy. So I appreciate you.
Yes, well, I'm just so honored that you would join, and just all the work that you've done so far. And as you said, you're just beginning to, because you have a positive impact on your surroundings, in your neighborhood, the people you represent, and in the world.
Thank you, Constance. I appreciate you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your transparency, and I know it will be helpful for so many.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Until next time.
Until next time.